Okay, I know this is like not ideal how the screen is, but I wanted to be able to see the problem and the work that I'm showing, so we will deal with the fact that it is not so beautiful. Okay, our first question says, how do you write 0.2 as a percentage? So if I wrote 0.2 on my paper, I know that one spot after the decimal is out of 10. So if I needed to, I could add a 0 here to now be out of 100. I know that if I am 20 out of 100, once our fraction is in, let me get rid of those lines. Once our fraction is out of 100, we just take the numerator, and that is our percentage. Oops, I'm going to click over here. Okay, oh, all right. 20%. Where's that? Okay. How do you write 0.6 as a percentage? That would be the exact same thing that we just did. That's 60%. How do you write 40 out of 100 as a percentage? We know that once it's out of 100, we just take our numerator, 40. 75% as a fraction in simplest form. So I know this is where some people are having trouble. So let's take a look here. 75% as a fraction in simplest form. So let's just start with the fraction part first. I know if it is a percent, that means out of 100. So my fraction just right out of the gate is 75 out of 100. Now, in order to write a fraction in simplest form, I need to find the greatest common factor of my numerator and my denominator. So I just happen to know that the greatest common factor of 75 and 100 is 25. So I would need to divide my numerator by 25 and my denominator by 25. This is going to give me 75 divided by 25 is 3. 100 divided by 25 is 4. Now, the way that I can check myself is to be sure that this is in simplest form is find out if they have any common factors other than 1. I know 3 is a prime number, so the only factors are 1 and 3. If one of my numbers is prime, I'm dead. So my fraction in simplest form is 3/4. The way that I enter that in on IXL is 3/4. 56% as a decimal, we know that, once again, if it's a percentage, it's out of 100, so that's 56 out of 100. We know that 2 spots after the decimal means I'm out of 100, so I would just fill it in like that, 0.56. On IXL, you can put the 0, you don't have to, it's all the same. All right, so here's kind of the tricky ones that people have been struggling with a little bit. 165% as a fraction or mixed number in simplest form. So let's just start with fraction, and then we will work towards the simplest form part. So 165%. It is still a percentage, so it is still out of 100. It doesn't matter that it's over 100. We know that percents are always out of 100. So first, let's just change this improper fraction, because it has a numerator that's greater than the denominator. Let's change this improper fraction to a mixed number. So I know 100 goes into 165 one whole time, and then I have 65 left over. It still takes 100 to make one whole. Now I need to reduce the 65 over 100 part so that it is in simplest form. The 1 is going to stay the way it is. I need to find the greatest common factor between 65 and 100. So instead of finding the greatest common factor, I'm just going to find a common factor to show you what would happen if you didn't find the greatest one. So I know 65 and 100. I know that 5 goes into both 65 and 100 because if it ends in 5 or 0, 5 is a factor. So I am just going to do 65 divided by 5 and 100 divided by 5. So I have one whole. 65 divided by 5 is 13. And 100 divided by 5 is 20. So actually that was the greatest common factor. I didn't think it was going to be, but it was. So sometimes you just have to try. If it wasn't the greatest common factor, I could just keep going. I could just use common factors until it was as small as possible. Now I know I'm done here because 13 is a prime number. And like we talked about, once you have a prime number, you cannot go any further because the only common factor will be 1. So the way I would enter 1 and 13/20 into my computer is I would write the 1 first, do a space, and then write the fraction part. 201% as a decimal. So 201%, once again, I know it is out of 100. 201 out of 100. Actually, another way we could do this, 201%. Let's break this up into hundreds and anything less than 100. So I know that this is made up of 200% and 1%. 200 plus 1 brings me back to 200%. The reason I broke it up into hundreds and anything less than 100 is because we know if we have a full 100%, then we have a whole number. So if I have 200%, I have 2, the whole number 2. And now I have 1% left. 1% I know looks like 1 over 100. Oops, sorry, that's shaky. And I know in order for a fraction to be out of 100, I must have 2 spots beyond the decimal, so it would be 0, 1. 2.01, and you just write it exactly that way. 6/4 as a percentage. This one's a little tricky. 6/4 as a percentage. 6/4. Okay, as a percentage. What I would do here is I would use a giant 1 to make this be out of 100 because I know percents are always out of 100, so let's make this a fraction out of 100 and then I'm good to go. So 4 times what is going to give me that fraction out of 100? I know that 4 times 25 does, so my giant 1 needs to be 25 over 25. 4 times 25 is 100, so we're good here. 6 times 25 is 150. I have 150 over 100. If my decimal or if my fraction is out of 100, I can just take the numerator and that is my percentage. So 6/4 is the same as 150%. Alrighty, I think we covered all of the tricky ones, so you should be good to go.